Boker or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Kavchet Amud Aleph. We were talking about the entire concept of Gilgul Shavua. If you remember, we said Tana Rabbi Ishmael, it's a Kal Vachomer from the Sotah. What does that mean? We went and we said, because we spoke about that by the Sotah, we do see that there's such a concept by Isur that we do Gilgul Shavua by a Sotah. So we said, how do you know that you also do Gilgul Shavua by money? Remember, the concept of Gilgul Shavua means that there's two different aspects that we're demanding you on. One of them you're chayav shavua, and the other one you're not chayav in shavua. And what we're trying to do is that we're ki'ilu coming and saying, since you're chayav shavua on aleph, so while you're doing the shavua, do it on b. B on itself, you're not chayav shavua. Ze lo meshane. Doesn't matter. It's gilgul atamigel gelet shavua on ze. We come and we put the shavua right on this also as well. So says the Gemara, right? It's a kavachom from the Sotah shelo nitna litava. Remember that by a sotah, we're talking about that you cannot have one witness coming. You need two witnesses by the sotah. And still, we're megalgelim the shivua. So mamon shenitali tava be'edechad, the money which can be done with one witness, right? Enodin shemegalgelim. Shouldn't it be for sure that you're able to come and do gilgul shivua? So for sure there should be a problem. There should be no problem. And therefore it's a kal vachomer. So says the Gemara, that's not true. Why? Ashkichan bavadai. At the end of the day, when you're going to come and you're going to do Gilgul Shivua is something that you're coming and you're saying for sure. Here, the entire concept is only a safek. So if it's a safek, how do you know that? Meaning, when you have one witness coming and saying that this guy went and he owes money or that, you're right, it's one witness. But it's a lavadai. It's not the same thing like by the sotah that it's going to be a safek, that we don't know if she did do an avira, didn't do an avira. It's not the same thing. So fine. Tanya, we learned in a brighter. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, "Ne'emra shivua bachutz, ve'ne'emra shivua bifnim." Right? When we're talking about now megalgelim shivua by a safek, it comes like this. It says the betin they're going to come. They're going to be mashbiya on the ta'ana mamonit, and this is going to be outside of the Beit Hamikdash, and also parashat sotah, which is inside, right, inside the Beit Hamikdash. Ma shivua amura bifnim, just like the shivua by the sotah. Asaba safek vadai, we made the safek like a vadai, and therefore we come and we make that the gilgul shivua on a tanat safek is like it's like a vadai. Ashivua mura b'chutz, so to the shivua which is done outside of the Beit Hamikdash, which has to do with money. So he says asaba safek vadai, you're making the gilgul shivua on the safek like a vadai. So says the Gemara, ad heichan gilgul shivua, until where does the power of gilgul shivua go? Amarav Yudam Rav says Yudam Rav, Elmaleh shavali she'en avdiata. Imagine a person comes and he says, you know what, swear to me that you're not my servant. You could come and you could make the Gilgul Shavua that he's going to be chayav on Lishava, even on something else. That's what we're saying. The Ad Kedekach is the power of Gilgul Shavua. So you could come and you could actually come and say, swear to me this also as well. And there's no problem. That's what he says like this. You cannot be mechayev in it on itself, right? Because you're not going to come and say, right? Imagine I come and I say, hey, you're my slave. He's going, what are you talking about? Swear to me that you're not my slave. You're going to say, Ribono Shel Olam, I have to swear. I have to do nothing. Well, I'm going to have to start swearing that you're a slave or not slave. But, right, it's still, you have to come. So he comes and he says, once you're already going to be chayav shavuan, so you could come and you could also make him swear on that as well. Okay? Ha'u shamuti meshamtinan leh. There was a person that they were coming, they were putting him in Nidui. Why?
What's the source? Why when we come to Avadim?
But there was this shamuti that they were meshamtinan leh. What does that mean? There was a person that they were minadim oto because he was mevazeh ben Israel, and he called him an eved without any proof. So imagine, you come and you go to a guy, slave, or you're my slave. You don't have any proofs, they put you in Nidui. Yeah, mamash kacha. So what happened? The Tanya was we learned in the Braita. Eved, benidui. If you call your friend an eved, he's going to go put in the nidui. Mamzer. Imagine you go and you call somebody a mamzer, and you don't have proof he's a mamzer. So feket arba'im, you give him lashes. Rasha, right? If you come and you call your friend a rasha, he says you're ready mo. Yeah, he says you're ready mo lechayav. What does that mean? You're allowed to mamash go down and embarrass him and everything. You could cause him a lot of things. You know, lemayet parnasato. No, they suspected it, but they didn't actually call him. No, they didn't call him a mazer. They suspected it. There's a big difference between suspecting somebody's and calling the guy to his face, listen, your mamzer, number one. Number two, also, by David Elmaleh, there was proofs. It's not that simple. David Elmaleh, there's proofs. Here you have no proofs.
How they come up to the idea that he's mamzer?
Because the father separated from the wife for a while. And all of a sudden she becomes pregnant. Aywa, how's she pregnant? We don't hold of... Ela Marava, but rather Rava comes and he says, He shavali shelo nimkarta li be'eved ivri. He comes and he says, the often a kitsuni, meaning the most extreme case that we're talking about of Gilgul Shavua is he's going to come and he's going to tell him, swear to me that you didn't sell yourself, right? That an Eved Ivri is a Yisrael Gamur, obviously. So therefore you can't come and be minadeoto, right? It's not like you're coming and saying an Eved or whatever it is. He comes and he says, swear to me that you didn't come and you didn't sell yourself to me as an Eved Ivri. So the Gemara says, one second, Hai ta'anata me'alyatahi, right? He says, one second, this ta'ana is a good ta'ana, mamona legabe. At the end of the day, he's chayav in money. So for why is it considered such a Gilgul Shavua? Usually when a person sells himself as an Ivri, it means that he owes money, right? He had to sell himself, whatever the case was. So he's owed money. What's the problem? So says the Gemara, Rava letameh, Rava goes according to his reasoning. Ta'amar Rava says, Eved Ivri gufo kanui. He says the body is acquired to the master. And therefore, when a person comes and he says he's an Eved Ivri, it's not only just mamonit, it's mamash al gufa Eved as well. So according to him, you cannot make a shavua, right, yeshirut on the body of the Eved, because we know that you don't make a shavua on karka, right? That's the general rule. So therefore, he comes and he says, here, you can do a Gilgul Shavua. That's a chidush. The chidush is that even though we know that Eved is ukash lekarkaot and it's utudovar lekmo karka. We know that in karka you do not make a shavua. So therefore, right, you make a shavua on other things, but not on karka. So therefore, he comes and he says, since the eved is like a karka, technically you should not do a shavua. Gilgul shavua, you're allowed to do it, and that's why it's the most extreme case that you're allowed to do Gilgul shavua to do with the eved ivri. Hachi, if so, hainu karka. So says the Gemara, 1 second, but then it should be 100% like karka. So says the Gemara, I would have thought to say, Karka hu David inche de mezavne betzin'ah. Imiti de zavin lekala. I would have thought to say that sometimes it happens that people come and they sell it, right, when it's not public. Right? Sometimes you have that even until today. It was an off-market sale. Meaning, it never went on the market. It was off the market. They went and they sold it. So, in ita de zavin, if you're going to tell me now that it was nachon, right, that he came and he actually acquired the land, lekala, right? There's no call. Right? Haim ita de zavin. So here it's going to be, if it's going to be the zavin, kala itle, there is a call. Kamashvalan comes teach you, right? And that's what he's trying to say over here, that even in a tviyah like this, it's not mistaber that you could be megalgela shavua, right? When it's already going to be chayav, already on another one. So therefore, that's what we're saying over here. That's a chidush. That even on something here, which is not mistaber, you could still do a gilgul shavua, even though you would have thought to say, listen, if be'emet, you would have had a call. At the end of the day, everybody knows about it. And the fact that nobody knows about it, so that's a proof be'emet that it didn't happen. So that's why you could still do gilgul shavua in such a case. Okay, that's until the Mishnah. Now we're going to start the Mishnah. So the Mishnah Kafchet Amud Aleph from the bottom says like this. Kol na'aseh damim be'acher, right? Anything which is going to be done as a tashlum, right? Which means that you're paying off for another object. Kevan shezacha zeh, nitchayev zeh bechalifav. Once he's going to be chayav, so the other one is going to be chayav in the chalipin. Okay, so therefore, for example, let's say I come and I say, okay, fine, you're going to take this, and by taking this, you take the para that I have in my house. So the second that you took this, you already have the switch. Meaning, even though you didn't actually take it from my house, but the fact that you came and you took this part, you just did the chalipin. Keitzar, what's the case? Hechlif shor bepara. If you came and you switched the shor with a para, or chamor beshor. Kevin shezachazeh, once one of them already made the acquisition, yitchayev zeh bechalifav. The other one becomes chayav in the chalipin. Says the Gemara, chalipin manihu. Right? He comes and he says this. What exactly we're talking about now that you could do a kinyan chalipin? Says the Gemara, lematbe'a, to do with a coin. What does that mean? The derech klal, right? Usually money is given over as payment for other things. Shemamina, we learn from here, matbea nasa chalipin, which means you could do a kinyan chalipin even through money, right? Now, this is actually a stira to the halakha, that usually a matbea, right? One said this is a stira that usually we say that you cannot use a matbea for chalipin, right? That's the halakha ravachat, which means the normal halakha is that usually you cannot use money for chalipin. Here we're saying, right, that you can. So the question is, it's a stira. So therefore, like this, you have to remember like this. Usually, right, whenever we're talking about chalipin, two people, they come and they're going to switch two different items, right? So therefore, what happens is, if it's going to be shaveh b'shaveh, so therefore, everything makes sense. Why, right? There are two equal items. You're coming and you're switching one for one. That's called chalipin. That's fine. But sometimes chalipin even happens on things which are not shaveh. So for example, I could give you a small item and you're going to make a kinyan gamur, whatever it is, and it's going to be on something else, right? So therefore, he comes and he says like this. We have a general rule that matbea, right, does not become chalipin. Meaning when you come and you give over money to someone, you're not doing a chalipin with it. Here though, it says that you can do a chalipin with money. So if I give you money, and now by giving you the money, you're going to acquire my shor or whatever it is that you're acquiring, my chamor or whatever. So it does work. So that's the stira. How could you tell me that kinyan chalipin works with matbea? I thought that the halakha rovachat is it can't work with matbea. So Amar Rav Yehuda comes and he says, Haki kamar. This is what the Mishnah actually needs to say. Kol anishom damim be'acher. Anything which needs a shuma. Shuma is an evaluation. You have to actually come and you have to give the erech. How much is it worth? Okay, so therefore he comes and he says all metaltalin except for matbea. Matbea, you never have to check what is the value of a dollar. A dollar is a dollar. Right? You have to check the value of a dollar. A dollar is a dollar. But anything else, you have to check what is the value. So he comes and he says this: anything which is nishom damim be'acher with somebody else, so you need to find out how much is the right. How much is the evaluation? Yeah, Kavchet Amubet 28b. So he says. So once the mocher is going to be zoche, the other one, which is the lokeach, is going to be chayav the chalipin on the achrayut of the object, because from that moment he acquired the object. So according to this, the Mishnah is teaching us that you could do kinyan chalipin with all the metaltalin, even if they're not going to be a keli, but not with money. So one more time, kesef. לא יכול לעשות חליפין.
כסף או מטבע?
מטבע.
כסף זה משהו אחר.
פיין, מטבע זה כסף.
כסף יש אורלי.
לא, מטבע זה כסף. נכון, מטבע זה כסף. מה זה מטבע?
לא כסף.
מה זאת אומרת? רב יהודה בא ואומר, הכי כמה, אז מה הוא אומר? הוא אומר, כל דבר, sorry, he says, anything that you have to come and you have to evaluate, right? Which means kol anishom damim, anything you have to come and you have to put a value on the money with somebody else. So therefore, once this one zoche, the other one, the lokeach, is going to be mitchayev b'chalipin. So for example, I came and I gave you this, and now you come and you took my shor. So now let's say the shor died before you took it. Meaning, you already took this, but you're coming to my house and the shor dies, drops dead. Kaddish on you, not on me. Because once you took this, it's zekvar shulcha. You didn't actually take it. No, the second you took one, the other one is already yours. That's what he comes and he says. So here it says, me'ota sha'a nikne lo hachefetz. So according to this, the Mishnah is melamed otanu. Yes, that's a kinyan chalipin. שאפשר לעשות קניין חליפין בכל המטלטלים, גם באלו שאינם כלים, אך לא במעות, but not with money. Because money you don't have to evaluate. Money is not, and again, we're not talking about foreign currency, and that's where you started with foreign currency in Eretz Israel. We're not talking about foreign currency. Here, in America, how much is the dollar? In Israel, how much is the shekel? I don't have to evaluate the shekel. I know 10 שקל זה 10 שקל. עכשיו, ביחס לדולר, אבל זה משהו אחר. אני לא מדבר על זה, אני מדבר על, do you have to be מעריך the כסף, the מעות? The answer is no. So מעות לא נקנית בחליפין, but מטלטלים, you have to be מעריך את זה, you have to put an ערך, you are going to be מקונה בחליפין. די קנמי דיתני, you can also actually deduce it from that which we learned, כיצד, החליף שור בפרה, או חמור בשור. When we came and we gave the different dugmaot of the Mishnah, we came and we said, Hechlif shor bepara or chamor beshor. So imagine right now, once you're going to switch a shor bepara or a chamor and a shor, that's when you're going to be chayav. Shemamina, so we actually learn from here that you're doing, right, with that if shal la'asot kinyan chalipin b'matbea, he says you can't learn from it, but you could do it from metaltalin. Because again, all of those are metaltalin. Chamor is metaltalin, shor metaltalin, but para is metal. All these things are metaltalin. So it says the Gemara, "Ulmaid is salikadaitin mi kara." But now that which we just saw at the beginning, the matbea na'aseh chalipin, my ketzad. 1 second. How do we start the Gemara? We started the Gemara by saying chalipin ma'nihu. What is chalipin? Matbea. And then we said stira. Right, Shemamia, we said you can't say that. You're right. So we say no, hachi kamar. You're right. It's not the matbia, it's metaltalin. So he says, so then what's the ketzah then? So he comes and he says hachi kamar. So he says, right, hachi kamar. Perot nami avdi chalipin. He says even perot, which are not kelim, could also do chalipin. Ketzah. What's the case? Hechlif besar shor bepara, or besar chamor beshor. Kevan shezacha zeh. So he comes and he says, when we're talking about now the perot, right, also which are metaltalin, which are not kelim, also you're able to do it. So for example, you're talking about now, right, the shor is basar shor. So now let's say the meat of a shor, and you're switching it with or basar, right, of the chamor, right, for a shor. So once you're going to acquire it, you do the meshicha on the basar, you're chayav the chalipin. So here we're talking about mamash meat. So it's not a utensil, zelo keli, basar zelo keli. And we're not talking about the metaltalin of the shor or chamor. We're talking about basara shor or basara chamor. But that you're going to acquire it. So hani charev sheshat. This is good according to Rav Sheshat. The Amar that he says perot of the chalipin, that you could do perot on chalipin. But according to Rav Nachman, right, the Amar perot of the chalipin that he says you cannot do it on perot. Michael, what are you going to say then? What are you going to say? So says the Gemara hachi kama. This is what it means to say. Yesh damim shehen kachalipin. There are such a things which are damim, which are like chalipin, which means there's something which is going to be like chalipin, and it actually helps to acquire metaltalin, just like chalipin. Ketzad hechlif demei shor bepara or demei chamor beshor. Meaning, if you're coming and you're going to be chayav, let's say money of a shor that he's going to buy, and now he wants to actually come and he wants to buy the para because of the chov. So, for example, I owe you you owe me $300. Right? And now I come and I say, you know what, 1 second, you have a shore. Give me the shore. So I'm taking the shore as a payment of the chov shata chayav. You have a debt to me. You owe me money. I'm going to come and take the shore, right, as that. Or the so in such a case, it's going to be acquiring, right, al yedei damim bilvad, right, through the money, and you don't need to do another kinyan. Meaning the fact that you already had the money, right? So therefore now I'm deducting it from the chov, right? That you owe me. So therefore it's going to help.
But if what's the difference? What's the money?
My tama, what is the reasoning? Why does the money buy? Why does it help in this case? Yeah, why? Lama ze ozer. Why is it like that? So says the Gemara, the Amar that he says, Dvar Torah ma'ot konot. Do you know the mina Torah, money buys? Which means, right, money talks, they say. No. So money buys. So he says, even a metaltalin. So why do they say then that by metaltalin you needed meshicha and not money? Because maybe there's a gzera, maybe what's going to happen is that there's going to be a srifa, right, after you pay, and the mocher is not going to bother saving it. And he's going to say, your things got burnt in the roof. And therefore, Chachamim come and they say that it still belongs to the seller until he does a meshicha. So minta de shchiach, something which is common, kazu berabbanan, the rabbis came and they made a gezerah. Minta de lo shchiach, but something which is not common, right? Which is basically like to do like a mechila v'chov, which basically that, you know, the chov that you have is staying by you, lo gazu berabbanan. They didn't make such a decree. You understand what happened? One more time. Mina Torah ma'ot konot. I come and I give you $1,000. I thought you give me the shore. So Mina Torah, the second I gave you $1,000, the shore is mine. But they say, no, you still have to do Mashicha. Why do you have to do Mashicha? It's metaltalin. Why do you have to do Mashicha? It's very, very simple. Imagine right now I come and I give you $1,000 to say, you know what, you have a lot of wheat in your house. It's mine. It's okay. Here, $1,000. Now, technically speaking, it's now mine. Right? Correct? It was ma'ot konot Mina Torah, which means the second I give you the money, it's mine. I don't have to do Mashicha. But the rabbis decreed I have to do Mashicha. Why do the rabbis say as the Mashiach? What happens right now if Chas Shalom, there's a fire in the roof where the wheat is? The seller is going to say, okay, tough luck, it's on him. Kaddish, what do I care? I'm going to go turn out the fire. I got the money. His loss. He's not going to save it. So the rabbi say, no, don't go so quick. He's not going to save it. Gizera. What's a gizera? Until the lokeach, the purchaser, doesn't come and do Mashiach, it still belongs to him. So if it gets burnt, who loses out? He does. So that's a gzerat chachamim.
Is just to hold until you
really to hold until I really do the Mashiach.
The minute you took it, the kinyan is complete.
Exactly. Once you do the Mashiach. So that's what they did. But really, mina Torah, ma'ot konot. Money is already enough. And according to Rabbi Shimon Resh Lakish, the Amar Meshicha Mefurash Min Torah, that he says Meshicha is what is Mefurash Min Torah, and Kinyan Kesef does not help Min Torah, right? So he comes and he says that's the Shita of, right, Resh Lakish. Okay, so he comes and he says Hanicha Isav Lekerav Shesha Damar Perot of the Chalipin. This is only going to be good if you're going to tell me that Perot you could use it as a Chalipin, even though it's not going to be a keli, a utensil. So Mitaretz Kerav Shesha, so he could just say it's like Rav Sheshat, which means that the Mishnah is coming and teaching us that you can do kinyan chalipin in all the metaltalin, right? And not only just in kelim. But according to Isa Vala, Kirav Nachman, Damar Perol of the Chalipin, you cannot do, right, chalipin with perot. Matbea lokani, right? And right now you can also not use the matbea, so the mukila. So what's it going to help now? So he says, al korchach, Rav Sheshat, 1 second. So therefore he says, for sure he has to hold like Rav Sheshat, that you could do a kinyan chalipin even in perot, and therefore he has to say that our Mishnah was going like Rav Sheshat. That it's coming to teach you that kinyan chalipin could be done with all the metaltalin and not with kelim. Okay? It says the Mishnah on the bottom of Kavchet Amud Bet, Reshuta Gavoa Bekesef. When we're talking about right now the Ekdesh, that you could come and you could be koneh metaltalin, is going to be done with kesef. Ushuta ediot, right? Which means when we're talking about ekdesh, you acquire property from ekdesh with money. The reshuta ediot, and a person which is a personal person, he's going to be with a chazakah, which means with meshicha, right? You could do right meshicha and not with the ma'ot. Okay, so he says amirato legavoa kemesirato leediot. When you come and you are magdish something, you're going to be magdish it, you're going to be maknez it to the gavoa, to the reshut of the ekdesh, is like giving it over by hediot, which means, usually, if I come and I tell you, Mordechai, I'm going to give you now here, it's $10,000, I'm giving it to you. Unless it doesn't get to your hands, and shum davar. But, amirato legavoa, to do with gavoa to Hashem, that's like mesirato leediot, meaning, for you to get the 10,000, what do I need to do? It has to come to your hands. I have to give it to you. But to do the Ekdesh, Amirato, the Amira, Lagavoa to the Ekdesh, is like the Mesira to the Idiot. And therefore, the second I said this is Ekdesh, Kaddish. It's Ekdesh. Because I said it. Once you said it, you said it. There's nothing else to do. Capish? Says the Gemara. Tanu Rabbana, we learned in Braita. Keitzad Reshuta Gavoa Bekesef. How do you use exactly now, right, by Ekdesh, how do you use the Kesef? Right? So Gizbar, Natan Maot Be'ema, right? Afilu Be'ema. So he comes, he says, the Gizbar Ekdesh, he comes and he gives the money for an animal, right? For a Korban Sibur. Afilu Be'ema Besof HaOlam, even if the Be'ema is at the end of the world, Kana. He acquires it. Imagine, he gives money, that's it. He acquires it. Usually you have to do Meshicha. No. The Ekdesh, boom. The Gizbar, remember the Gizbar is like the Parnas. Yeah, the Parnas comes, he gives the money, here it is, that's it. Ubehediot, and we're talking about now Ediot. Lokana. So he says he's not going to acquire it until he does Meshicha. So how do we say, what is the explanation that when you're going to come and say whatever you say to the Gavoa is like Mesirato Leediot? Haomer shor ze leola. Person comes and he says this shor is an ola. Or by ze ekdesh. This house is hekdesh. Afilu besof haolam. Even if it's going to be in the sof haolam, kana, you're going to acquire it. But if it's with a normal human being, you don't acquire it. Because again, you have to do a type of a kinyan. It's not just enough. Amila is a klum. You have to actually do a kinyan. So ad shimshoch, until you do the meshicha, ve'ad shiyaktik, or until you do chazaka. That means you have to do meshicha or chazaka. Right? Kaftet amud aleph on the top. Okay? So now he comes and he says, right? Mashcho b'maneh. if right now a person comes and he's going to be moshech a chefetz of ekdesh from the gizbar, and he wants to redeem it, velo yispik liftoto, right? And he didn't have enough time to redeem it ad shamad b'matayim, until it became more expensive. Noter matayim, he has to give matayim. Right now, look, you've got this animal. It belongs to ekdesh. I start taking the animal when I'm going to redeem it. But by the time I redeem the animal, it went up in price. From 100, it went to 200. So what happens? You have to pay 200. My tama, what's reasoning? The chefetz of the ekdesh is going to be redeemed with the money. And therefore, as long as you didn't pay the money, it doesn't come out of the ekdesh. Okay? Mashcho b'matayim ve'lo yispik liftoto ad she'amad b'maneh noten b'matayim. What happens right now? You took it and it was $200, and all of a sudden it went down in price to $100. You have to give $200. Why? Ma'itama lo yeh koach hediot chamor me'ekdesh, which means it's not proper that the koach of an adam prati is better than ekdesh. Which means since when a person is going to be koneh from another person, it has to be done with meshicha, and in here he did the meshicha, he just didn't pay. So since the ekdesh cannot lose out, so therefore, since he already did the meshicha, you're right to do with ekdesh. If it goes up now in price, you didn't pay, so now you have to pay the higher price. But since by another person, if I already did the meshicha, it's mine, so the ekdesh is not going to lose out now that it went down in price. I still have to pay the higher price, the 200. Okay? What's going to happen if I redeem it in 200? And you didn't have the time to do meshicha until it went down. So here, right, it went down even before the meshicha and before the paying. You still have to give it. Right? Sorry, here you actually paid for it. You just didn't do the meshicha. So since you paid for it, that's it. Once you paid, you paid. Right? It becomes yours. Whatever you redeem. Then so in this case, though, if you paid the money and then you didn't have enough time to come, right? And so here we're talking about that the tashlum was done before the meshicha. Okay, this is a little bit different than what we mentioned before. So he says, "Amai why? Right? Why don't we say the same thing? That it can't be that the hediot is better than ekdesh. Why over here, right? If right now you already paid 100 and you didn't have enough time to do meshicha, and all of a sudden it went up to 200, why do we say no? It's good. Why is it good? You should pay 200. So says the Gemara, "Ad tu hediot lav v'misha parakai." He says, well, with an adam prati, he could actually retract even after getting the money, right? And he doesn't get the klala of misha para, which means we already know that if somebody comes and he takes money and he didn't do meshicha, they could retract. But the bet didn't give him a klala. They give him a klala, right? So that's called misha para. Misha para manche dora mabul, dora palaga, huatili para, misha omed b'diburo. Yeah? You understood? Is this guy was not trustworthy with his words. That's called misha para. Misha para means the one that paid back Dora Mabul and Dora Palaga, he's going to exact retribution also on him. Why? Because you gave your word. You gave the money. How are you going to come and retract? So he comes and he says, so that's why it's very, very important. Okay?